You know him, you love him, you're gonna want more of him. Here he is now, it's Chatting with Colin.
Hello, everyone. It's me, Colin Sheehan. It's been a while. I've been busy, with what? I don't know. Did you guys see The Little Mermaid at Branford High School? That was at the middle or the end of March. It was amazing. It was so much fun. That's what I was busy working on. And everything at Parks and Recreation, which I just came from a meeting at Parks and Recreation where after 37 years, the program supervisor, Vic Amatori, is retiring. So it's a little bittersweet. I didn't have a lot of time to do research for today's show, so we're going to see how it goes. And I'm a little rusty, but you guys are a very forgiving audience. But thank you for everyone that came to Branford High School Performing Arts production of The Little Mermaid. We had so much fun. It was a perfect year to do a Disney musical. We wanted to keep it light and bright, and the cast, the crew, the orchestra, the audience, everything was phenomenal. Can't wait till next year. And this summer, our adult show, Into the Woods. I love Stephen Sondheim. So that's going to be at Walsh in June. More to come on that. But up first, for the town of Branford, we have our TGIF Friday concerts. And look how fancy we are. Isn't that amazing? I love it. With each episode, we're getting more and more high tech. So come TGIF concerts behind Town Hall on the back green. We have all these amazing bands coming. They've all played big venues like the Wolf Den at Mohegan Sun. So they're all great. CoverGirl on May 1st, Souls on Fire on May 8th, The Heavy Hitters May 15th, Sister Funk May 22nd, and Forgotten by Friday May 29th. That's all 6 to 8 behind Town Hall, weather permitting. Okay. Enough about this. I promise you there'll be more Chatting with Collins. We have a bunch of great guests scheduled to come up. And that now's the time that I really need to tell you guys what's happening in Branford because spring is here. We got concerts going. We have the Branford Festival. We have the Jazz Series. We have so much going on. So I'll be coming to you more and more. But enough about me. We have an amazing guest today. You probably know her from Branford because the family, they had Shelley's Garden Center. They've just been very community focused and Branford focused and had a devastating fire that I'm sure you've heard about or you contributed to the fundraiser. Let's just get going, okay? Let's welcome to Chatting with Colin, Taylor Lee Chambers. Hi, Taylor. How are you?
Well, hello, Colin. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you for coming. I mean, you look amazing.
Thanks.
For being a farmer, I'm like, look at you. Hair, makeup, beautiful flower. And I mean, I know you have a background of performing and hair and makeup and everything, which we'll get to. But I just have to say, you look stunning.
Why, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Farmers can be fancy.
Yes, you can be.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
can be. So tell me a little bit about yourself. What your family background, growing up in Branford. Just to give the audience a little bit about you.
Well, hello, Branford. I have been born and raised in this community very proudly. I constantly talk about the beauties of Branford and our town and all of the blessings that we have here. And I do believe that family and community support came from being born and raised on Main Street at Shelley's Garden Center. And all of the people and patrons that would come to our garden center became like family to us. We were open 7 days a week in season, every holiday. So when the holidays have been coming around now and the garden center isn't there for Easter or Mother's Day or Father's Day, our family finds ourselves in a little bit of a quandary, in a
and
loss.
So does the community.
Yeah, we don't really know what to do on these holidays.
And everyone in Branford is like, we want Shelley's back.
Yeah.
We want to go there.
Where do you go to get these custom items and handmade things and the heart that we put into every product that we went out and hand bought from other local farmers and area agriculturalists, and a 75-year commitment.
Yeah, what year did it start?
Oh, well, we're not going to get Taylor perfect on
dates.
That's
okay. No one's perfect.
Because if there are people from our community that are remembrance of when people put our community into different boroughs. So when I was growing up, my grandfather always said, this is the fourth ward, the fourth
Correct.
ward.
I hear that all the time.
I hear that all the time. And the original business for us was Smitty's Stonewall Cafe. And that sits right now where Branford Jewelers is.
Wow.
And it was a restaurant that fed and supported the community with a warm meal at an affordable price. And it gave everyone a restaurant that felt like a home. So all of the people that were coming out of the factories working could come in for 25 cents and get a full big meal and a drink and go home not needing to worry about cooking and such, because Smitty's Stonewall Cafe was there. So when my grandfather started courting my grandmother, Marion, at that time Schmidt, and Norman Chambers, he, in being a new son-in-law, would go to the market for the family. And he would go and buy all of the fresh produce to come in and cook for the restaurant. And calling his father-in-law, they obviously didn't call each other back then per se, he was supposed to go and get a case of watermelon. Well, Norman Chambers came home with a pallet of watermelon in a very entrepreneurial mindset. He said, well, we'll have fresh watermelon for the restaurant, but you know that people would buy this from us and bring it home because I'm able to go out to every local farmer and everyone that's growing the cream of the crop and the best of the best. And then I can bring that into our patrons and in the parking lot. So I know there's a business called The Stand, but growing up, we always called Shelley's Garden Center The Stand. Reason being, it started with pallets built up in a stand that sat in the parking lot of Spitty's Stonewall Cafe. Wow. And when people would come in, they would be able to buy fresh corn, fresh zucchini, fresh watermelon. And every morning, 3:30 a.m., my grandfather was at the market and in the farms with the farmers that were growing the freshest and the best food, bringing it into the restaurant, but then in being able to buy larger quantities, making our service and food to the restaurant patrons as low as possible, but then also providing outreach to the community in the Fourth Ward to have fresh available groceries, which wasn't a thing of the time 75, 80 years ago.
Right.
It was hard to find fresh produce. You would have to get yourself to the farm. There weren't grocery stores as we know of them now.
Right.
So after years of reopening at the restaurant, over time, my grandparents were able to afford the money to then purchase Shelley's Garden Center where it sits at 217 Main Street.
And Shelley's named after who?
So, okay, that is my Auntie Shelley, their firstborn child. So there are 3 siblings in the Chambers legacy. My Auntie Shelley, Michelle Santos, my Uncle Norman Chambers, who has since passed. Our family has had a lot of loss and a lot of tragedy that we have always masked with joy and positivity, and not dwelling on the sorrows and the sadnesses of what was going on in our everyday immediate life, and making sure that we all band together as a community and as a family. And what our patrons saw was a very strong-rooted family commitment to our work, to our legacy, and to the patrons that came and supported us.
So there was Shelley, there was Norman.
And then there is my father. My father is the baby of the family, and that is John Chambers, Big John, Big Papa, Bigfoot of town, gentle giant, who stayed with the business, stayed with his parents throughout all of the years, and then met my mother at a very young age. And by 19, they were married. And then Yvette Chambers came into the picture, really revolutionizing and taking such a knack for art and design and creating beauty out of what was already there, which would be the addition to all of our special fresh flower arrangements and our mason jar arrangements and our custom wreaths. And every holiday, you didn't just go and pick up a lily. You picked up a lily that was foiled and it was bowed and it was customized with a stuffy that the kids could then play with afterwards. And it wasn't like you were just going in to bring Auntie a dirty potted plant.
Right.
You brought Auntie a true displayed gift.
Yeah.
And that was Yvette's contribution, and all of the antique furniture and so many of the beautifications that came along. My grandmother set the path, taught us how to make a bow. One of the things in the family it's a joke saying you're in the family if you can make a bow, if you can make a Christmas bow, if you can make a holiday bow. And throughout the years, gosh, we made so many bows and we had so much ribbon and so many ways to customize each person's experience to exactly what they needed and wanted.
Well, so I have to go back because Norman
Yes.
and your dad, were they pissed that it was named after Shelley, the
Oh gosh,
sister?
no, not
I
at
would
all.
be so pissed. I would be like,
No, that's
because
my
I'm a
Auntie
middle
Shelley.
child. So,
Oh, okay, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So they were just like, well, she's the only girl, so
Yep, she was the eldest, and in naming the business, funny thing is they went to get their sign made, and Michelle's nickname was Shelley, and so Shelley's Garden Center, well, we see it spelt Shellleys.
yeah.
It was not originally spelled like that. And in the day, my grandparents called a sign maker and said, we would like you to make a sign for our business. And the sign maker spelt it Shellleys. And that became the business name.
That's hysterical. I would go back to that sign maker and be like, I need you to make it right now.
And 75 years ago, you just didn't do that. You said, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'll work with this.
Oh my
and our
gosh.
family has been saying, thank you so much. I will work with this for 75 years now.
Yeah. So back to you. Where'd you go to school? What about your family?
So, born and raised Branford resident, I went through the Branford public school system. I was diagnosed with a learning disability in second grade, so I was put in the LD program. We have majorly revolutionized the learning disabled community's experience when they are going through school now, and I'm very grateful for that because my experience made me who I am. It made me empathic. It made me so able to identify and build community around every single human that God creates and gives to us on earth. I have dyslexia, ADHD, dysgraphia. There are a lot of LMNOP.
I'm LGBTQ.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
all the letters.
I had a mustard tape recorder that read to me. I still, to this day, use dictation text services. I use a lot of the modern day amenities of helping me spell check things and helping me make sure that my punctuation is all correct. And thank God for technology. And when I was struggling and growing up with my mustard tape recorder that I got through Reading for the Blind, they always tried to reassure me, Taylor, the things that you are saying are correct and they're great. And someday, with the modern day technology of the world, no one's going to know that you struggle. And I do feel that I have overcome so many odds in the stereotypical expectation of what people think they're going to get when someone identifies themselves as having a learning disability or, having some downfalls. Maybe I don't read that great, but guess what? If you read that to me, I'm going to have it forever. I'm going to be able to memorize it, and then I will be able to publicly speak about it efficiently and eloquently. Where most people fear public speaking, that was always one of my strengths. I grew up in a business. I have been talking to customers my entire life. I have been teaching people how to grow tomatoes, how to fix their grass, and how to get their goose to lay an egg ever since I was very, very small. Training German Shepherds and dogs. Our family is long known for our legacy with free German Shepherds and dogs on Main Street as our business with never a worry or a fear. Our family has been training animals in a serviceable manner our entire life. No one knows my father without having a German Shepherd by his side.
Right.
He always was admirable of Mr. Dan Cosgrove himself. And when I was younger, he used to say, do you see that man right there? It's in that old car with all those dogs in it. He's like, that's who I want to be like when I get older. I want to be known as the person that drives the old vehicle that has all of the dogs, that, truly a steward of the land, that cared more about the environment and the plants and the earth and the animals and the creatures. And in dealing with some hard subject matters over the years, our family has always turned to nature to find positivity, to find beauty, to find something to be excited about and to refocus some very serious subject matters into things that we would prefer to talk about, which would be flowers, plants, dogs, kittens, cats,
Right.
and per se, maintaining agriculture in our community today. Literally a statistic this morning, 40% of the world have jobs in the industry of agriculture. And in the United States, and with our society of young humans that think that food come from the grocery store or that came out of a box. And oftentimes when you go into younger classrooms, young humans can't identify what is lettuce, what is Swiss chard, what is kale. Obviously, tomatoes are generally pretty identifiable. Apples are obvious. But when it comes to getting into the diversity of horticulture, it is definitely not something that is being overly educated on. And that's a bit of a downfall, because how are we going to be our healthiest self if we don't understand where our food came from, how it was raised, how do you grow that, what's a germination rate, when is that food fresh, when is it not? These are all of the things that throughout my life, every day, day in and day out, I did. I would teach people how to grow a garden.
Oh my God, we are so different, Taylor. I mean, actually, we're not, because I know you perform too, but those thoughts and questions never went through my head.
Correct. Well, correct. And it is right down to helping people nutritionally fortify themselves. People constantly ask, how do you look like that? Why did you stay like that? I get into some basics of, can you read the label on the food that you're eating? How many processes did that go through before you consumed it? And now how do you expect your system to fortify yourself nutritionally when you're not really putting in anything that's fresh? You're putting everything that's been man-made, and ultimately making our systems compromised over time to not be able to absorb the goodness from the fresh food and from the nutrition that grows from our earth.
Yeah.
And taking that in such a processed manner away from our society and making them all be the healthiest self that they can be.
Yeah. So back to, I just teased at the performing. You have many sides of you.
Yes.
Like, what? Tell me about the performing side.
Well, like a lot of very, very accomplished Branford residents, our town supports the arts in such a beautiful way. I was raised in the school plays. I was raised singing and performing, and ultimately being encouraged to speak eloquently and learn how to express myself, because I did have good subject matters to talk about, and people would listen, and needing to put forth my best self and make sure that I am conveying an educated statement was very, very important. So being involved in the performing arts, obviously through Branford, I was in the Sliny school plays. We did Alice in Wonderland. Then the Walsh school plays with Mr. Wagner. Wagon Wheels West and Bedside Manor. I'm just naming a few.
I saw them, and I was very jealous because I went to St. Mary's School, and there was no theater program.
Correct.
And I wanted them to do a theater show. I begged every year. Now East Shoreline Catholic Academy, I think, does do it.
They certainly do.
But
the Wagners are still at it.
Yes,
they are helping our community get that outreach.
Yes, but between not being able to be a cheerleader at St. Mary's and not having a musical, I'm still in therapy.
Well, you are fixing it and revolutionizing those things for yourself. And I think that a lot of us, that's what we've been doing. That is our philanthropy. We're like,
Correct.
well, I feel like this was a little bit weak, and maybe my help can make that a little bit better for the future. So in being, I started performing when I was 6. So this is 1986. And I was in Schubert production plays. I was in Oliver. I every year performed for the AIDS benefit at Schubert. I was a Miss Connecticut early on singer and performer for the pageant system, for the Miss America pageant system at a very young age as a young talent. and then a hair model. So this is really crazy, naturally curly hair that some days makes me look like a poodle. Other days I look like I just stuck my finger in a light socket. But then there are some days that are great hair days. And then there are other days that are even better hair days. And in fighting with what God gave me naturally, I actually became a registered cosmetologist, hairdresser, and makeup artist. Because I constantly was crying in the chairs of hairdressers when they weren't quite understanding what I was looking for. And they loved all of that hair and really couldn't wait to get their hands into it. But next thing you know, I'm leaving with hair that's even bigger than what I came in with. And that was very wonderful for chair modeling as a hair model,
Right.
of which I do. But when I was going into school and I was the only one that had that kind of hair, I was definitely picked on. I would walk through the hallways, and Chia was what was the nickname. I got given frizzies for Christmas one year in the cafeteria publicly.
I was the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Okay.
They would push my belly button and go, oh, yeah.
Oh gosh, it's we rolled the punches because, and I constantly tell people all the time, thank God for my acting training and my public speaking and my ability to not win a pageant with class and still be able to stand and talk and have educated things to say. And with all of that public speaking background, I feel like rather than stooping to the level, I have always raised above. I've never wanted anyone to be upset with me, even if I was reacting to something that was happening to me. Two wrongs don't make a right. Reacting and having a heartfelt response to things that are happening in your environment just ultimately makes you look like you were crazy. And then ultimately they got to you. And that means they won. So when I was handed frizzies in 8th grade in the cafeteria, I was like, oh my goodness, thank you. I can use this. This is a great product. This is going to be excellent. It's exactly what I needed. And everyone was standing in the Walsh cafeteria looking and just waiting in silence for me to cry, yell, break down, something. They weren't expecting a gracious response. And throughout my life, keep it classy, Taylor. My mother raised me with the book of etiquette in the Bible. And, you know, we will go to church on Sundays and we send it up to God. And the things that we can't control, we pray on that. And these were always subject matters in my life that, you know what, this is much larger than me. And there is a bigger being that's going to help me with all of this. And all I need to do is live my life by the book of etiquette in the Bible and make sure that I'm properly representing myself and my family at all times. Because growing up at that family business, my mom always told me, Taylor, everyone knows who you are.
Correct.
Trust me, when you go up to the center of town, when you are at the Branford Festival, when you are out in public, you were raised here. They identify you. They know who you are. They know who your parents are. I was never able to go and do anything that would, you know, pull the wool over my parents' eyes. I was up at the festival one day and immediately they came down, oh, we just saw Taylor at the festival and she was doing all of these things with her friends. And I was doing good things and I was being a good girl. And when my mother picked me up at the end of the day, now this is in my intermediate school years, she said, well, you know, you got caught out in the community. And I'm like, oh goodness, what did I do? Did I do something bad? Was I wrong? And she was like, you got caught being good. And you were seen making great choices.
That's great. That sort of happened to me when I was, so I said I went to St. Mary's for 10 years, the same 27 people.
Yes.
Every year, not a lot of variety in classes. You're in the same, whether you're highly skilled at math or not, you're all in the same class. And then in the spring of 1999, when I was in 8th grade, that's when I was on the Rosie Show. And so overnight, it like everyone in Branford knew me from going to the same like families for 10 years. And I just remember, because Rosie and Oprah were like the #1 shows. And now it's had this resurgence, which is
watching
crazy.
The videos.
So
they're awesome.
I'm at the Little Mermaid rehearsal and I get, my phone is blowing up and I'm getting all these texts like, what, like, I'm like, what is going on? And I look down and someone's like, you're going viral on TikTok. Now I'm not a TikToker. I have no clue. I'm like, I feel so old. And so I'm trying to look. Anyway, I get home after rehearsal, and then I see that they posted nearly all of my segments from Florida, which was, fun to go back after 26 years and see. But it's also a little bit like, oh my God, my home videos are being released. But it's funny because in 1999, it was the era of AOL message boards and chat boards, and everyone on there was saying, he's too gay to be on television. I can't believe Rosie would have this kid, blah, 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 blah. And I'm reading them as a 13-year-old. And now I'm reading the comments on TikTok, and it's all these kids going, he's a legend, icon. I'm like, where were these kids in 1999?
Correct.
It's crazy that, there's a resurgence after 27 years, actually, it's been. And just the whole difference between 1999 and today, and the keyboard warriors and what they'll say behind when people don't know them, but also how kids' minds have shifted because they are the TikTokers. It's not our generation. And they're the ones leaving the comments saying like, go him, blah, blah, blah. I can't believe this was whatever years ago. And so that has been great to see.
Yes.
Over 150,000 views. That's a little crazy, but again, not about me, but saying that cafeteria story made me think about that, and that everyone knew and knows your family,
Yes.
which we have to get to. I think the devastating stuff that
And the
happened
things, yes.
that the community knows and the community rallied. But can you talk a little bit about Foxfield Farm and what happened and where you're at and things like that?
Yes. So where we're at right now, our late business has been sold. A tale of the times where things look good from the outside, but for us, we were still running our business at a financial 1970s model. And when it came to the modern day times of the new employment fees and the work ethic of humans and trying to maintain a very difficult lifestyle, and again, a lot of people come and see a happy holiday family. 3 Easters ago, my grandmother died on Good Friday. Oh. My grandmother was upstairs. The whole family was there. My daughters were there. My middle daughter, Aurora, was downstairs with a cousin waiting on customers. My eldest daughter and I, as a freshman, and my younger were upstairs with our grandmother that had just passed away. It was a holiday. She stayed there for 7 hours before someone would come to declare her dead. And
Really?
then my father was doing very, very poorly, and we had no clue that the next day he was about to be admitted into the hospital. This is 3 years ago, and we almost lost him the first month of finding out that he had been riddled with stage 4 cancer. And he
you
had
still had the garden center this time, or no?
Yeah, the garden center was still alive, and we were trying to function with my mother in the hospital with my father. My grandmother literally had just passed away that day. And downstairs, we had people coming in. Oh, God, what happened around here? Who died? And we're like, well,
Jesus.
Yes, and my grandmother. And they're having no clue that the things that they're saying are real. And we have all of our cousins and friends and family there trying to help us run a business and have it look like everything's peachy keen. Don't look in the backyard at the ambulance and the hearse that's back there. Look over here, smoke and mirrors. There's an Easter bunny.
There's been a lot of distraction in your life.
Yes. So we are the masters of the smoke and mirror, of the let's focus on the positivity in the room. Let's focus this around agriculture. Let's talk about growing tomatoes. And let's keep it out of the emotional well-being of the here and the now for our family. The same thing when my grandfather passed away. He convalesced with us, with our family. There was a 6-week from him being diagnosed with cancer to him to going up to heaven that, wow, look at all of these cousins and everyone that bands together and everyone's helping unload that truck and everyone is pitching in, but really not realizing that upstairs we have hospice here convalescing my grandfather.
Have you always lived in the same house?
So my father was born and raised in the same house,
Wow.
and my aunts, my uncles. When I was young, the White House behind the garden center was a duplex, and my uncle lived on one side, and my father and our family, his family lived on one side, we lived on the other. And my aunt lived on Monroe Street, so she was literally half a mile away, 2 streets over. And the whole family and the cousins and everyone is pretty much always been here in town, available and making our own lives, but still leaving moments for the family business and making sure that we continue to evolve as humans and educate ourselves and have careers. And then going back to that performance and growing up in Branford, performance is a huge part of our society and our community.
Yeah.
But I did get a very in-depth look at the world in the industry starting at 6, and I had an agent and a manager, and I was on auditions, and I
Now,
had bookings.
did your parents push you, or was it you were
Um,
bit by the bug, or because you started a
so
little younger than me,
I
but
s-
I was the one calling the agent, wanting the agent, and they're like, "You're 12 years old." Like
you
I
can't
was,
advocate for yourself.
yeah, but my parents were like, "No, we're from New York. We don't want to drive down to New York every like." So they were probably not. They were definitely not stage parents. They weren't pushing me because
Correct.
my other siblings were sports people, as were they. So
Yes.
they're like, "What do I do with this kid that has all this energy in theater?" So were you an advocate for yourself, or were they sort of pushing you because they saw talent? Like what?
Okay, so there is a double face to this. There was not a lot of self-confidence in me. And I do believe that my mother's biggest push and my grandmother's was listening to me sing at 3 years old, and I would sing "Putting on the Ritz," and I would prefer. Oh, dun 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 dun. Yes,
Love it.
yes. And I would sing every tune, every single word, every single note. I have an ear. I can hear things once, and I can sing it just as I heard it.
That's me. My next door neighbor was babysitting me. I think I was 3 or 4, and the Flintstones came on, and I sang the whole theme song word for word, note
Yes.
perfect. And she was the
Yes.
one that told my parents, "I think he can sing."
Yes. Yes. And so in our old house, the stairway echoed beautifully like an opera house. So in my house, I would, starting at a very, very young age, as soon as I could, basically make sound, I would sing big Broadway belter shows, songs.
Yeah.
And I was raised with a family that really did love. My grandmother had a stunning, stunning voice and was in many glee clubs and sang all my life. So I would be able to hear my grandmother singing above the garden center and her house, and I'd be able to hear her singing in my house. And then I would go up and sing with my grandmother. And my grandmother ultimately convalesced my uncle who had cystic fibrosis, and I am a carrier of cystic fibrosis, which we'll get into my science dedication. And being with him and helping my grandmother with him, well, I guess my grandmother was taking care of me and him at the same time. The little things were singing for my uncle and going into senior centers with my grandparents visiting their friends. And they'd be like, "Taylor, sing New York, New York. Go ahead and do it." And then anytime I went anywhere with my grandparents, I would be standing on someone's coffee table in the middle of their living room, putting on the Ritz.
Yeah.
And I wasn't afraid to sing in public, and I loved the outreach in the senior centers. I used to go into hospice and sing before.
It's so funny. I did the same thing.
It-
It's like I
well,
went to all the nursing homes
Yes,
and
it
the
gives
Orchard Hill
you
Center and
an opportunity to practice with positive feedback for people that are happy to see you there. You are uplifting their day. And ultimately, by the time I would get to an audition or to whatever show I was working on or whatever performance was next, I had practiced and practiced so much. And I had had so many people talking to me and communicating with me in a positive, non-threatening way that once when I would get to an audition or finally be ready for a pageant in Miss Connecticut, my interview was so natural and organic, and my talent came through like it was effortless.
Yeah.
And growing up academics were so hard and just struggling to read and retain. And then I would listen to one song and be able to sing it like that and go into record it. I recorded three albums. I have done a lot in the musical performance world, which led me into modeling and led me into doing a lot of print work and hair modeling. This big mop head of hair has been used for a lot of photos and a lot of different products and a lot of different marketing opportunities. And rather than being in school and having the kids make fun of me and call me Chia and not like my frizzy hair, it's like, okay, well, maybe my student body isn't quite into this, but there is an industry that is paying me right now to take pictures of this hair. So it can't be that bad.
Right.
And then I ultimately became, at a young age, a makeup artist with Mustang Sally. Everyone knows her.
Oh, I know. We miss her.
She was one of my mentors. And when I was in high school, Carmel and I go way back because of Meryl Norman.
Yeah.
And so for many years through high school and college, I worked for Meryl Norman Cosmetics and did all of the waxing. I did lash tinting and all of the makeup artistry. Had a makeup certificate at 18. And I went to the University of Connecticut with that background. So this is where my farming roots and my performance life blends and melds. So every day I've been raised with animals. They're grounding. They love me no matter what. I sing to them. My notes can crack. I can deliver my lines wrong. And they still look at me and they're very pleased. No
and
matter
they say
what.
in show business, never work with kids or
animals.
Yes. So
And
that's interesting.
Animals are my best co-star these days. And so I would sing in the barn. And I had to have my audiobooks. I had to have a place to listen to them. And trust me, in a classroom or in the library, people don't want to listen to my audiobook. And I don't really love headphones. When you've been born and raised on a farm, I have a very unique sense of survival skills. And we have been through a number of different crazy things in our life that lead me to never wearing earphones. You cannot hear a car coming behind you if you are running on the road, if you are on a farm, if an animal's charging at you,
Right.
or a piece of...
Oh my gosh. That means it's 12 o'clock. I need to clock out for lunch. I'm not going to. I'm working still.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Taylor.
That's okay. Dedication is everything. I don't even know what it is to have a lunch break.
No, I don't either.
Never needed that. We eat on the fly. I would be waiting on customers and chewing on a sandwich and ringing the register and then helping someone over here and then tying a bow and doing all of the things at once. So our Branford performance background led me to understand that show business is great and grand, but it also comes with a lot of you're too big, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too fat. Wow, you've got a great talent, but you're not the look we want. We can't stand that hair. We love that hair. Could you lose 20 pounds?
Right.
We like you, but it's just not going to work out. And that's a lot of rejection to accept into your life at a very young age. So we'll say by 8, I was allowing people to tell me what to fix about myself and tell me how to improve or how to be better and give marginal compliments. But ultimately, many days leaves you feeling deflated and maybe like you need a side job. So my passion and love for agriculture is what has always been my rooted career and my real job. So finding out there was a horse high school that I could go to. I am a crazy horse girl.
Ever since I've known you, because
ever since you've known
I've
me.
been friends with the Smiths since they were
Yes,
since we
at
grew
my
up
barn.
together. Yeah.
Yes.
And so I've only known you riding in the neighborhood and with Aaron and
Yes.
yeah.
So a lot of our neighbors and patrons in town still to this day will see me or my daughters now riding our horses down Main Street. My daughters ride our horses to the Dunkin' right off the highway entrance ramp. I was getting off the highway one day and I come down. Now, I don't really know what my kids are doing. They're at the farm. There are 4 horses in the intersection. They have their Duncan. My youngest is riding a rodeo bronc as it looks. She's spilling her refresher all over the intersection. Other kids, they're eating the grass with their horses on the median in front of Coastal Spirits. And I pull in the parking lot and I was like, oh my goodness.
What is going on?
Ladies, like, I don't want to say you're an embarrassment, but this is a bit of a spectacle.
Yeah.
There are people recording you. It looks like the wild, wild west.
Yeah, now they're going to go viral on TikTok.
Yes, on a random day in Branford when the girls just needed a ride to Duncan. They wanted to go to the center of town. They wanted to ride down to the beach. We're less than a mile from it.
Yeah.
I have grown up using horses as a mode of transportation, and my 3 daughters still today use those horses at a mode of transportation in
That's
town, and they
amazing.
get them from A to B, and they
What's the horse
create
high school?
yes. So we're going to go back to Horse High School.
Like, which one was it?
So very young age, I found out that Lyman Hall High School in Wallingford existed. And that is our town's sending agricultural outreach trade school for our community. There are many towns that go to that one hub. And since 2000, so I applied to Horse High School.
Mm-hmm.
I got into Horse High School, making myself have 2 opportunities to earn money, to have a career, and to better myself in a way that if showbiz doesn't work out, and I'm prepared for it not to, because not that many people make it, at the end of the day, I can teach agriculture. I can do a lot of better things for my community and the world in general at whole in pursuing agriculture. So I was in large animal science, equine science, area of subject. There are many opportunities, horticulture, large animal science, small animal science, vet science, ag mechanics, natural resources and wildlife biology, agribusiness. There are many, many opportunities that live at Lyman Hall High School that our town of Branford humans are allowed to apply for.
Which is amazing
It is
because like
absolutely
I was
amazing.
talking about St. Mary's, not a lot of options. When I went to Branford High School, it was like, oh my gosh, look at all the options here. And if you love horses, if you love agriculture, sounds like Lyman Hall is the place to be.
It really is. And they are a trades-based school. So these students leave with a career. So I applied to Lyman Hall High School. I got accepted and then became a major member of the community in my school. I immediately went in and I was, again, known as the horse girl, but I was also in the school musicals. I was also the captain of the cheerleading squad. I was friends. I like to call myself a unifier. My joke is, call me Elmer. I'm the glue. I really don't like the stereotypes of these are the theater kids, these are the ag kids, these are the music kids, these are the arts kids, these are the sporty kids.
Well, clearly because you're everything.
Oh, correct. That's very correct. And what we're doing is trying to unify. We're not trying to divide. We're not trying to separate. We are trying to say, I'm no different from you, and they're no different from you. And actually, if you gave them an opportunity, you would really like them too. And I know that when I was at Lyman Hall, I even had faculty and staff come up to me and say, you've done a really good job bridging the gap between the areas of the school and having a more global community feel. So I graduated from Lyman Hall High School in 1999. I was in the National FFA chorus, so I actually was chosen as the only vocalist from New England, period. Wow. And got flown out a week in advance, and I went to the National FFA conference. And I went in humble. There were vocalists there handing out albums and making themselves known. And I went in quiet, and I went in grateful. And
did you go in riding on a horse?
I did not have to. I did not have to. No, I rode there on an airplane and got there, and I sheepishly raised my hand for the solo audition. And there were all of these people that were just so confident and handing out their resumes, and they were going to go and get it. And you probably will, but I'm going to try,
Yeah.
give me an opportunity.
Why not?
And I got the closing ceremony solo for the FFA National Convention. And it was the first time they were actually moving it, because it was always in Kansas City, Missouri. They were moving it that year for the first time. So it was a really big endeavor for the FFA to actually be moving this national convention that had been held in the same place for so many years. And my late advisor from school was there, and our school got recognized, and I got recognized as the closing soloist.
That's
and
incredible.
I just went up and said, thank you for the opportunity. And there was no, ooh, me, look at this, look at that. It was like, I just want to turn,
Yeah.
And I think being humble in this world, in this industry, has probably been my best suited asset, because I am always prepared to be told no. I am always
When you're
expecting,
since an age of 4 or whatever,
yeah,
you're like,
at a very young age, I am prepared for them to say all the mean things at any
Yeah.
given time and not get the role. But I think going in and being grateful and being humble and being able to connect with humans, whether they be directors, whether they be students, whether, there are patrons at our business, I am able to create a very warm feel with everyone that I meet and find a common denominator that is a unifier. And that's what I strive for in every communication that I have. So I very proudly was able to represent, and I'm going to say New England again, because I got there and there were a lot of people from all over the United States, and they didn't even know where Connecticut was on the map.
Wow.
Because they're from the Midwest.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of big states represented in agriculture, and Connecticut, per capita of land, compared to other states, we have the largest amount of horses in our state,
Never would have thought
considering our
that.
size. We are one of the smallest states that actually has the largest amount of horses and equestrians in it. And that's something that never really gets brought up or, is
Yeah.
recognized. Our state has a lot of crops and a lot of products and produce and things that are manufactured and distributed and grown and raised here in Connecticut and in New England, that we are known as the Constitution state and the hard to pay your taxes state. And there aren't a lot of people that give us the glory that we deserve for all of our outstanding things in agriculture.
Yeah, Jersey's the garden state.
They say that until you drive through and you're
And
like,
you're like, what is that smell?
Okay.
That doesn't smell very garden-like.
Interesting,
And I lived in
yes.
Jersey for a little bit, so I could say that.
yes.
We only have a little bit of time left, Taylor. I could talk to you all day, but we have
Okay.
to get to,
We're gonna
the
get
devastating
into- yes,
fire.
Okay.
So in 2011,
So,
you built a new barn, right?
yes.
On your
So,
property?
I have been very dedicated to this passion and the upbringing of agriculture and making sure. So many of you may know the name in town, Lucy Hammer. So
Yes.
Lucy Hammer was someone that did business with my grandfather. She then did business with my mother and my father and my grandmother. And growing up, I always knew Lucy as one of our customers. And then I started to volunteer at the town stable. So
Where was that?
So it is right where it sits right now. That is 103 Cherry Hill Road. When my grandparents first opened the garden center where Richlands is, that is where the town stable was, in that parking lot.
Okay.
And then in the evolution of business, they moved the farm up to 103 Cherry Hill Road, where it sits now. There is still an estate house, which is a professional bed and breakfast. There is still the farmhouse, which was Lucy's house. And I started volunteering at this farm when I was 6, and I would show up every Tuesday and I would clean stalls. And next thing you know, I started to go and hang out at Lucy's house. And she became a grandmother figure to me. And I spent years and years with Lucy in her home, in her living room. And then as I got older and I was in high school, I would have sleepovers with Lucy because Lucy lived with aides and nurses full time. But on Christmas night and on Thanksgiving night, those nurses would want to go home to their own family.
Right.
So I would spend all of my holiday overnights sleeping at Lucy's house.
Aw.
And I cooked for us a number of times, and she would chuckle because I'm still not the greatest cook. And she
You
would
can't
say,
be good at
"You can't be good,"
everything.
and I'm really not great in the kitchen. I can grow it and I can hand it to you.
Yeah.
But when I get in the kitchen, I get the laundry going and I'm running and doing 10,000 things. And there's a chance that something in the meal will end up being burnt
That's
or
okay.
overcooked a little bit. And so Lucy looked at me and laughed as we both ate my terrible meal. And she said, "Oh, it's okay, honey. You'll marry well. You're not homely. You'll figure it out. You're not going to need to be in the kitchen your entire life." And I do feed my family and I do provide, and we
And
do
you did
still
marry well.
grow, and I did marry Prince Charming. I have the most amazing husband and beautiful
Can
3
someone
daughters.
find me Prince Charming, please? And thank you.
Someday your prince will come.
Yes.
You need to keep
I smell a
singing the
song.
fairy tales.
Exactly.
Yes, yes, yes.
Let's talk about, where'd you meet your
Yes.
husband?
Oh gosh, well, we met at St. Mary's Church, and we were both in the confirmation program. So my husband went to St. Mary's
That's how I
in
know him,
Branford.
yeah.
That's how you know Benjamin Scussel. And then he went to Notre Dame and I went to Lyman Hall, but we were both in the same confirmation class. And while I have often been going around the world just, like a happy little bubble cloud human, I was getting in trouble in confirmation class for talking too much. Nothing has
That's what I
changed.
used to get.
Nothing has changed.
On the old
Talks too
report.
much.
Yes.
Talks too
Talks
much.
too much and didn't want to participate in gym.
No, I participated. I just was also picking flowers and doing
Oh
cartwheels.
my God, my parents were
in the
never
outfield.
prouder than me when I was picking dandelions in the outfield, using it as a microphone,
And then-
singing Broadway show tunes.
Yes, but then emceeing the game.
Correct.
And being the master of ceremonies
And the
at
cheerleader
things.
being
And
all.
the cheerleader, exactly. I think that when you have a theater arts background, you can really insert yourself with good professional public speaking in any capacity and be an asset to whether it be sporting, whether it be agriculture, whether it be theater, anything. Being a good public speaker means a lot. So
I took you off the train and track because I talked about Benjamin. I'm
That's
sorry, Ben.
okay.
It's not all about you.
Oh, it is all about
but we
Benji.
do
He
need
is
to get
such
to
a
that
lovely
Foxfield
supporter.
Farm fire.
Yes. So I did meet him in confirmation. We did fall in love a few years later. He saw me out and about and he was like, "Oh my goodness, you were the freak girl from confirmation." And I looked at him and I was like, "Freak girl?" I was like, "I feel like I've been pretty much girl next door, American apple pie. Where does freak girl come from?" Well, I used to color my hair with Crayola markers, and every curl would be a different color when I would leave CCD, and it would wash out. It was Crayola washable markers. So when I would go to school the next day, I didn't go to school with crazy rainbow hair. Which wasn't crazy, it was beautiful actually.
I love a rainbow.
I love
It's
a
my
good rainbow. It's
favorite
my
color.
favorite thing. It is literally rainbows and unicorns has been
Yes.
my little handle in life. And so he remembered me as standing out, being very different. And I was not like any of the other students that we were in confirmation class with. And apparently used to sit behind me and he would walk and he'd wait for me to be my quirky normal self. And then I met him later in life and he was like, "You're the one. You're the girl. You are the girl from confirmation." And it was love at first sight. I had to be reminded, and I didn't really pay attention. I was so happy with my life and happy with my animals and happy with Lyman Hall. I wasn't there looking at anything. I was there trying to not get in trouble for talking.
Right.
So it was beautiful that we got to re-meet. We got married at St. Mary's. We brought in Father Maroney. So this is BCTV. So that was our priest growing up.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we were able to bring him in for our wedding. And it was very fairy tale. We went out in a carriage, horse-led carriage. And
Only
that's
appropriate.
Only appropriate. And that's what took us to Woodwinds. And we had a winter wedding because in the garden center world, you can't get married when it's busy. So,
Right.
so we had to wait for Christmas to be over. And then we used all of the leftover poinsettias. We filled up Woodwinds. We filled up the church and had a very gorgeous fairy tale wedding, meeting and marrying my Prince Charming. That has been my backbone and supported me through thick and thin, through high and low, and the good times and the bad times. And a few years back, my daughters, it was April vacation. Maybe you remember the mass shooting that happened on Main Street.
Yes.
Yeah, we were there. It was April vacation. My 2 younger daughters were playing in the backyard. My mom was up at the house at Bible study with my elder daughter. And because my daughters have been raised with firearm safety and the understanding of having an evacuation plan and understanding how to save their own lives, they knew what they were listening to, and they had a go plan, and they ran, and they came inside, and we
Your
we
dad did
lived
something
through
like
that.
right away, right?
All of us, yeah, everyone sprang to action, and my father ran outside on the phone with 911 and stood behind a pallet of straw. So we had just gotten all of our spring order of our fertilizer and our products and our stuff that we would be selling to our patrons for the year. And so my father was on the phone with 911, and we didn't know where the sounds of the bullets were coming from because of the echo from Richlands and the little fishbowl that we live in. We couldn't even identify if this person was on foot, were they running, what was going on. And then the Branford Police Department swiftly within seconds showed up. And then the East Haven Police Department swiftly within seconds showed up. And we had multiple heroes that came to save us. And my father is standing behind the hay, and he's talking to the police officer that is behind his car as he's jumping up and going do 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 and jumping down and boom 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 and then do 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 do. And there was such a brave Samaritan in our backyard behind our dumpster, and we all retreated. We had to wait for magazine loads. We knew, okay, he's out. That means he needs to reload. He let go over 500 rounds into the side of our house, into the side of our truck, into our home, into our safe space. The truck that I still have in my driveway that I drive still has 23 bullet holes through the side of it. And so when people look at me and my children, and we tell some of these stories from our life, it's unbelievable. And they're like, no way. You're telling a tale. I wish these were tales. They are not just tales. These are things that we have lived through, lived by. And ultimately, at the end of the day, our family was grateful that it happened to our family because we were prepared. We swiftly acted. We understood how to try and keep our family safe. My very young children at the time, they were in 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, young. And they knew exactly what to do and exactly where to go. And then we went up to my grandmother's house, and we were up there for 7 hours as this all went on. And
I remember I lived right by the center, and I heard it. I was at the community house, and then I went home, and it was a crazy day because you think this is never going to happen in Branford.
So many of these things, this isn't my life.
Right.
And this is where I step back and I'm like, ooh, that is really your life. These are your stories. So the shooting, wowza. And then we'll go to January 30th. It was the coldest day of the year. I substitute at Lyman Hall High School in my crusade in philanthropy for agricultural education. I am the president of the FFA Alumni Association. This year alone, we have raised $15,000 in grant funding that is going towards the agricultural program at Lyman Hall High School to continue on with agricultural education. I was in the barn 4:35 a.m., got everything situated and set beautifully. It was 7 below that day, and it was on a Friday. And so my husband works at Sikorsky Aircraft, and I went into the house and I said, listen, it's crazy cold outside today. I'm going to take a substitute position. I'm going to go and teach at Lyman Hall. Could you go into the barn at 12 o'clock and give the horses hay again? I gave them water. I gave them hay. They're set. It's warm in there. It's so much better than being outside. And I went to work with my 2 older daughters. I substitute at Lyman Hall High School, employed by the Board of Education, so that I can continue to outreach and all of these old stories and the farming education that I have from our elders in town. I need to make sure that that gets into the new community of the next generation of agriculturalists. So I think it's very important that I continue to substitute at Lyman Hall High School indefinitely, because those are my moments and opportunities to go in and take this subject matter that they are learning in their textbooks, apply it to the real life, real stories, and then have them understand why it's so important and why I am so passionate at being their cheerleader to make sure that they continue on in the progression of continuing with agriculture in a positive way. So I took Ava, my high school senior at Lyman Hall, food science, allied health. She already has her CNA from high school, again, a trade school. Aurora is a sophomore. She's a pre-veterinary study, equine science focus. They are involved in sports, cheerleaders, volleyball players. And that day at 10 o'clock, we don't have very good service. I was in one of my favorite classrooms with all of my most special students that just warm my heart every single time I get to be with them. And I just got a text message that came from my husband that just said fire, because he had been trying to call me. And I looked at it, and there were other aides and paras in the classroom, and I looked at them and I was like, this is fire. And I was like, it could mean dinner was fire last night. It could be that was fire. We use this expression as like a term nowadays.
Right.
And I was like,
but knowing your cooking skills.
Well, I wasn't in the house. So the smoke alarm wasn't going off. I wasn't burning the biscuits.
I had to make a joke. Okay,
yeah, I do like to burn the biscuits. It's true. And it just said fire. And so I was like, please let me excuse myself. I was like, I don't even know what this is. And so I can still hear my high heels trotting down the hallway, because you can't run in the hallways. And I'm trying to get to a door and call my husband, and he's, helpless, panic-stricken, crying. My father and my husband, they were only the two men on the property at the time, and God has graced us with that none of the women were there to hear and to see and to witness what they went through and what they tried to save. And the fire department. So we built this new barn in 2011.
Right.
I like to think that I am a philanthropist that promotes agricultural education and the bettering of and learning how to be more sustainable and how to build better, more efficient systems. And in my barn, you can look up at the videos and see smoke detector, heat detector, carbon monoxide detector, alert to the fire department, alert to the house. These were major things that I focused on when we were taking the contents from the piggy bank and building our new facility in 2011. And those systems worked. They did alert the fire department. They did call into the house and so my dad was inside. He's not well. He's struggling with cancer. He was inside and came running out, and my husband was plowing in the driveway. He was outside.
He was right there.
He was right there. And it had started after investigations, and we were interrogated for an arson fire. I mean, there's nothing more horrifying than having a guy come from down south to sit my husband and I down at a table to interrogate us to something that was such a tragedy for our world. And he came in, and I'm like, oh, welcome and hi and thank you. And all, it was not a very positive experience. It was a horrifying experience, because
Right.
This is someone that is now interviewing us thinking that we had ill intent. And oh gosh, this was just a tragedy to our family. No ill intent. And
Right.
ultimately investigations went through. There was an extension cord that was underneath the door, and combustion happened, and there was nothing anyone could do. Within seconds and moments, a brand new, beautiful barn that had just been built with foreshadow of having good material used and things that would help us in emergencies. At the end of the day, fire's fire, and it won. My husband was only able to get out one horse. A cat made it out, and one guinea pig, Louise. And I know it's Louise because I know that she came from King Louis, and that was her father, because we support SAE, which is Supervised Agricultural Experiences, and we hypothesize things. And all of my mentors and students and volunteers have different projects that they are evolving with their agricultural education commitment through the FFA and ASTE, which is Agricultural Science Technology. Our farm provides those hours and that outreach to these students that need to be mentored in the field of veterinary science, reproductive physiology, there, and the list goes on of the opportunities that we have always offered and provided.
Right.
So Louise went running out to the fire chief's foot onto a pile of snow, and the fire chief picked up this little guinea pig that had completely charred ears and had been burnt, and ran through fire to save its own life, and handed it to my father. And so I left Lyman Hall. I drove the 25 minutes from there to home, and ultimately was greeted in the driveway and told that I couldn't go to my home. It wasn't safe.
Yeah.
And I looked at them and I was like, oh, maybe you can't get up that driveway, but I know the way the deer go, and I'm going to follow the path through the wood. And I went running up through 2-foot-high snow.
Coldest day of the year.
Coldest day of the year. And what I mean, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was just so huge, so big. And then really
I know,
kind of,
sorry for interrupting.
yes.
I know that we're showing pictures of the fire.
That I haven't even really looked at. I
Yeah.
haven't, no.
So thank you for providing that.
Yes.
And I know that you haven't looked at them since, but.
Yeah, no, I understand how PTSD works,
Yeah.
and I've already been touched. I don't need to be continually reliving this in my mind. But my German Shepherd dog, Stryker, was trying to get into the building, trying to get into the fire, because that was a time of day that Mom would be in there. And I came running up into the driveway and saw a volunteer firefighter trying to get him into my home very reluctantly. And he just was not going to leave that fire because he really thought I was in there.
Mm.
And as soon as I said his name and he heard my voice, and this firefighter is, going to get him in the house for his own safety. He's a big boy. And I said his name, and whoop, there he came. And he came running to his mama. And she said, she's like, and he was soaked and frozen. He looked like he has a long-haired German Shepherd. He looked like a frozen Muppet. As they're trying to put out the fire, the water is turning to snow.
Right.
And I ran up in front of the barn, and all I could see were rainbows everywhere, rainbows and snowflakes. And it was blocking the flames. It was blocking the devastation. It was blocking every single thing that was actively happening in that moment. And I looked at it and I said, God, you would never do something that you didn't have, a greater picture for in the future. And I do say that the Lord doesn't give us more things than we can handle. And apparently I'm much stronger than I thought I was.
Right.
And with my dog by my side, I went running into the house to go and find my father and my husband with my German Shepherd. And then I went in to see my father sitting in his rocking chair with this very charred guinea pig with ears that were completely blackened and crisped up, and he's rocking in his chair and just tears rolling down his face, and his jacket was all with burn holes in it, and he was like, I tried. And my husband was like, Taylor, like, we couldn't do anything. We were helpless, trying to open up doors and get everything and anything that they could. We had a fire extinguisher company. We pay a fire extinguisher company to come and certify our environment every year and make sure that, and there, you open that door, there's a fire extinguisher right there, and it was immediately grabbed. And my husband ran in and out of the barn 3 times.
Yeah, you did everything right. It was just, there were so many factors.
Right.
When the water's freezing.
And then it was windy. And so what was happening was, ultimately, when they realized there's not much that we're going to be able to do about the barn, in managing our farm in a safe manner, we have a workshop that's completely separate from the barn, because in the workshop is where all of our tools are, where the equipment, where the batteries, where the fuel for the tractor, where all of the things that ultimately my husband went over to the police chief and said, you need to guard this barn with your life, because if this building catches on fire, it's going to blow up. And then this is going to blow up and it's going to catch the house on fire.
Right.
The flames were so big and the damage was so great. All of the trees in the environment just so far away. The siding on our house melted. It completely melted the siding on our house. It complete devastation, and then not to mention the fact that it caught back on fire the next day. So the next day,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, the next day, as family and friends and kind people from our community were up there trying to help us figure out how to mutter through the rubble, they were it caught back on fire, and the fire department had to come back up the next day and continue to try and put that out.
I mean, I remember being at the community house and seeing it on social media, and then, I mean, Branford knew about it right away.
Immediately.
And speaking of the fabulous Branford community, can you tell a little bit how the community came to surround you and support you?
Yes. I always knew that our family was very loved and supported. The amount of outreach, the amount of humans, the amount of meals, the amount of people on foot traveling through the woods, doing everything in their power to get to us that day, despite even their own safety and thinking about anything but our family and our well-being. It was an overwhelming response, and I ultimately had to leave to take my husband to the hospital. So I got my husband he was not going to leave that fire, and so I got home. I did not cry. I did not shudder a bit of emotion other than to be numb and neutral and take care of my family and worry about my kids. Oh, I think I'm still in shock.
Yeah.
But again, I'm trying not to see photos, but what was happening is that my daughters were in class and they were having photos sent to their phone. Aurora was in class and was sent a photo where basically she can see her horse burning in the window of the barn. And they didn't really know what was going on. All they knew was
As they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
You're in school.
And I was at school and I was running to the car. And at that time, my senior was passing in the hall, and she looked at me. She goes, "Mom, like, what's the matter?" And I said, "The barn's on fire, baby." I was like, "I'll be back to get you. Get your sister. Stay safe. I'll be back." And so I drove home to assess the epic disaster and sorrow and all of our best friends. So horses live a really long time. Stuart Little, we owned for 21 years. He was 37 years old when he passed away. Norman, that everyone is going to remember when my grandfather passed away. I got a pony sent to our house from a slaughterhouse auction. I paid meat price for him. And my mom's like, "You have to be kidding me. This is so irrational. You just bought a horse off the internet with a 2-sentence description from a slaughter auction with a credit card, and it's being delivered to our house. Have you lost your mind?" I said, "I don't know. I think Grandpa is sending me what I need." "Oh, you think Grandpa did this? Well, then that pony's name is Norman." I said, "Okay." So that's where Norman got his name. He was named after my grandfather. And Norman, for 15 years, has been running all my programs with me. He goes to schools. He goes to senior centers. He, every day, every moment, you never know what I'd be doing. I teach cosmetology classes, and I would use Norman as my model and teach growing on cosmetologists learn how to clipper cut and learn how to braid hair. And where do our products come from?
Yes.
When the label says not animal tested or animal cruelty free, what does that really mean? What does it mean for the animals? What does that mean for the industry? And just because you want to be, per se, a cosmetologist or go to hairdressing school, that does not mean you need to be in a salon and behind that chair. I do work in salons and behind chairs, but I also work in labs and with scientists that are creating products and that are making the new hairspray or the new wrinkle cream. And that is the same world and the same industry. And this is why I often love to branch science with cosmetology. So I saw my daughter in the hallway. I said, "Please get your sister." And I went running home. Called multiple schools, made sure Autumn, that was over at Walsh, was in safe, good hands, because she was also getting bombarded with photos and with live things that were happening at her home to her pets. Autumn's 13. Norman's 25.
Right.
Willow is 22. Merlin is 20. These
Their
are
whole life.
long-term commitments. We built this new barn in 2011. Aurora was born in 2010. Autumn was born in 2012. It's all they knew.
Right.
That was their home, their extended safe place. And those animals were their teachers in life. And I made sure that they were the babysitters. It didn't just affect my daughters in school. It affected almost all of the kids in school, because throughout the years to our community, that space was used for Branford Youth Cheerleading team dinners. We offered it to the volleyball teams, to the softball teams. We provided a lesson space. We provided classrooms
Summer
to people.
camps.
We did summer programs and agricultural experiences that abut the curriculum from learning in an agricultural facility. I went to the University of Connecticut. I established my farm as a 4-H facility. I'm the only one in Middlesex, New Haven County. I'm the president of the FFA Alumni Association. This building, it was the hub for so much progressive agriculture for the future. And in a minute, it was gone, and we couldn't save ourselves. And realizing, I couldn't cry over what was happening immediately, because I had to be the one to try and pick up my family and say, we aren't handed things that we can't handle, and there is a plan. So I was able to get my husband in the ambulance and head to the hospital. And then I left, letting the fire department and all of the first responders and all of the heroes do their job, do what they do. And I drove to Walsh Intermediate School. I picked up Autumn. And then Autumn and I drove to Lyman Hall. And I picked up Ava and Aurora. And I got the kids, and then ultimately went straight to the hospital to go into the emergency room and find my husband, of which you could smell before you could find. The entire emergency department smelt like the barn fire. There was no question where he was or what direction he came in, because the smell that was coming off of my husband in particular, and me from being there and not caring about what smoke was blowing in my direction, and we smelt like a barn fire.
Yeah.
So my husband got a clean bill of health, released some smoke inhalation, anxiety, feeling like you're going to have a heart attack.
Right.
Ultimately, it was more the heart palpitations that I was concerned about, and smoke inhalation and such. So we spent quite a bit of time at the hospital with him. And then ultimately, I gave my children the option, like, we do not have to go home right now. We don't have to go and put ourselves directly into that. And each one of them had an option. Do you want to go to a safe space? Do you want to go to a best friend's house, to our family members? And the girls just wanted to go home. They just wanted to be able to go home. And being isolated and slightly aloof in all of these things, I try to not, when I see people, I only want them to smile. I do not want them to look at me and feel bad for me. And my children are the same exact way. And in going back to school, there is a ton of sympathy and a ton of people that care, and a lot of kids that had their birthday parties at the farm, and a lot of kids that, every year we go there for all of these different occasions and affairs. And there are a lot of kids posting pictures of Norman and of Merlin and of Willow and Stuart Little, and of their positive experiences that I had over the years. So it didn't just affect my kids. It affected all of the kids at Lyman Hall High School. It affected the kids at Branford High School. It affected the kids at Walsh Intermediate School and all the surrounding towns. Because when you are the agricultural hub for the area in premier agricultural leadership for our youth, a lot of people have come to the town of Branford boarding facility and to our stables. And that was established as the town stable. It still is the town stable. I have a heartfelt handshake agreement with Lucy Hammer. I promised her I'll keep it what she wants it to be. And right now we are in in a position where insurance, it's their job to give people as little as possible. That's the insurance game. And so we did have to hire an insurance firm to help us
Plead your case.
Plead our case and help us maximize, just to get back to what we had.
Right.
And so far, the things that they are offering us in replacement costs, it's going to sound crazy, but we're getting numbers that won't even buy material. That is not going to rebuild anything. And so what did Taylor do? I have been communicating with local tree companies. And if you go up to the barn right now, and we have photos, you'll see the chickens, pecking and cleaning the earth, cleaning up the fire, helping us make our ecosystem better and more beautiful again. And I have a ton of wood there. And thank you, Branford bitches. Everyone will probably want to know, what did I do with their fundings?
It's this podcast that got me to being a Branford bitch.
Okay.
I wanted to be a Branford bitch for so long. I'm like, I'm the biggest bitch in Branford, and they finally let me in. I think I'm the only guy.
Okay. Well, their money, I bought a wood mill, Colin. I am going the Pilgrim route. I don't know what Mayflower I shipped myself in from.
The one in your hair.
Yeah, the Mayflower. Yes, that is a magnolia, actually. But
You know.
I am going to mill the wood and
How
rebuild
much did
the barn.
the Branford bitches raise?
It was a very generous amount of money.
Okay.
It was outstanding. The Branford High School did a kissing booth fundraiser with dogs.
There was a GoFundMe too, right?
There is a GoFundMe that's
still.
still active and out there. We have a benefit.
You have a benefit on June
coming
27th.
up on June 27th at the Irish American Club. Patrons of the Irish American Club are very kindly trying to put together this charity for us.
Us Irish are pretty good.
Yes, we are.
And we're
we
lucky.
are.
And I know that all the luck is going to come to you. And I know the community will continue to back the GoFundMe. And where do they find out more information about the upcoming benefit in June? And where could they donate?
So we do have an active GoFundMe. We do have other opportunities. Our website has our family legacy, our family stories, ponytails that I'm writing about every single one of our horses and trying to dedicate a life that, guess what? In my stories, it doesn't end that way. There's never a
Rainbows
sad
and
ending.
unicorns.
Rainbows and
unicorns.
It will never have a sad ending. And in being able to write children's books about my stories and my animals, and these are our experiences, there will be an autobiography that goes with it that truly tells a much deeper tale. But animal therapy and PTSD, animal-based services has always been something that I'm very passionate about. We have been raised by German Shepherds ourselves. Our business and family is known for having working line animals. And so when you would come to our garden center and see those German Shepherds, even our Jack Russell Terrier, they all had a job and a role in the family. So still to this day, we still have 3 German Shepherds, a Doberman, and other animals. Each one of my daughters have their own emotional support cat. Autumn has her own literal service rabbit that goes with her to troubling appointments.
And all those cats and things,
those were all bred by me. So I get to use my background in animal science, reproductive physiology, genetics with a minor in food science, and I get to prove the studies and the science behind our hypotheses. And we hypothesize the smooth hair coat guinea pig is more dominant over the rough hair coat guinea pig, and ultimately teaching humans genetics, science, what makes us. I am a carrier for cystic fibrosis. Ultimately, raising 3 daughters, they need to be raised with science because that's what's going to help them be their healthiest self, help them understand their systems, help them understand how to fortify their body.
Science helped me lose almost 100 pounds in the last 2 years. So
there is so many modern advancements and reasons for having a ton of respect and having an unbelievable, I'm a bit of a warrior when it comes to the rights of those animals.
I think you're more than a bit of a
Uh,
warrior.
yes, a bit of a warrior when it comes to the rights of agriculture. Someone that crusades for the trees, someone that cares about our soil health and our earth and our planet and the future of all of the next generations. If we don't care about it passionately now, what's going to happen?
What's that you mentioned your website? What is that website?
All right. So my website is foxfieldfarm.net. We have family history. We've got stories on there. Our book will be there. I like to earn money because I earned it. So on there, we will be selling merch. We have our Foxfield Farm hoodies, T-shirts, original vintage Shelley's Garden Center apparel.
Wow, cool.
So, I'm this old, supporting Branford forever. Now, we will be doing some of the things up at our farm that we were known for in the community at Shelley's Garden Center. I do have fresh farm eggs every day. Right now, I have 15 dozen eggs in my downstairs refrigerator. So if anyone needs fresh eggs, we have those. Every penny counts.
Yeah.
And when I say that I am frugal, sometimes I'm called cheap. But there's not a lot of money to work with.
Right.
So in looking at material costs and how much everything has gone up since we just built this barn in 2011, we cannot build this barn with what we saved. And this was a piggy bank, and this was a family endeavor in providing a new barn on the property where Lucy Hammer, with a handshake and a hug, Lucy, I promise I will be committed to this for the rest of my life.
Well, yes, and it sounds like you weren't ever in the business of making money. You were in the business of bettering the community, and that got handed down to you generation to generation.
Correct. I have always had 3 jobs, and
Me too.
Yes, at all times, and whether I'm running to sing the national anthem for a veterans event with all of my philanthropy and outreach in appreciation to our veterans from my years of my USO days and traveling, to waking up every morning and feeding my animals. And then in the middle of the day, making sure they get their lunch. And then at the end of the day, doing barn chores and making that life fit in all capacities. I had to earn money. I had to be a mother. I had to be a wife. I had to be a truck driver, a forklift driver. My dad raised me and my grandfather raised me. Women can do everything and anything.
Yeah.
I do not need to call upon a man when I would be getting my loads of hay and my husband's at work and I need to wait for all the guys to come and help me with the heavy lifting. What does Taylor do? She goes to Harbor Freight. She buys an engine block lift. She rigs it up into the top of the hayloft, and I pulley that up and down, and I don't need to wait for a man. The tractor, I bought the tractor. I bought the equipment and the things, and I love telling people that when they come up and they're like, oh, I'm like, oh, no. That's my tractor. That is my piece of equipment, because I am so proud of having worked hard, saved the money, made sure that I set up my goals in a way throughout my life that I would be acquiring things like my hydraulic dump trailer, totaled in the fire, completely melted. We got $3,000 to replace it. It costs $14,000 to get that trailer now. Wow. It's the insurance industry of it all. It's that's again not my world, and it's very hard to put my head around right now. Hence, leading me to say, you know what? I'm going to buy a wood mill, and I am going to take the trees taken down in our town and take our Branford wood. I'm going to mill it. Yes, I understand it needs to dry. All right, I have a lot of people. But Taylor, don't you know you can't just cut a board and then build it? Duh. Yes, I know.
I don't know that, but I'm just a theater major.
You're right. I was an agricultural major. I took classes in as
all the
many
things
of the agricultural sciences that I can, because just because you have horses doesn't mean you don't need to know how to grow the pasture to feed the horse, to properly fortify his nutrition, to have longevity in life.
Right.
That is not something that I just go to the local feed and grain store and say, oh, we'll handle it. No. I grow our own. We feed our family. And one of the things that I've done in what used to be our riding ring, where I would teach my riding lessons, we are making this a community-supported garden. And I obviously don't have extra funds to say thank you and give back, but I will
can
be
grow.
able to grow unbelievable amounts of produce and fresh flowers, and then I will be able to bring baskets to the fire department, bring back baskets to the police department, bring baskets to the town hall,
That's awesome.
and give them every opportunity to say thank you. We've already sent cookies. We've keep trying to do kind outreach for the humans that put themselves on the line to try and
Just like
save
you and your
us.
family has done so much for the Branford community.
Always.
The Branford community will always be there for you. I could talk to you forever, but it's already been an hour and a half. You have the record of being the longest Chatting with Colin guest.
Colin, what I would really like is a little agricultural outreach. So I'm going to propose to Chatting with Colin and to BCTV and our residents. My father still watches this station. This is a relevant station in our home. It provides people that don't get to go to these meetings and still want to be involved.
Right.
It provides you with news and information. I would love to come on seasonally and do.
Let's do it.
Yes, and we can talk about what we should be growing and what we're doing with our environment and what's going on in the world of agriculture. I love the Farmer's Almanac. The Farmer's Almanac is the only book that I read every year. Again, Book of Etiquette, the Bible, and the Farmer's Almanac.
Right.
Those are my things. So I would love to come back and do another Chatting with Colin on what's going on next. Where
course.
can you find us? We may even film a movie up there someday.
Let's do it.
We are going to take all of those Branford roots in theater arts, and we're going to take that farming environment. The past 2 years, we were actually filming animal-based commercials. You often will see my dogs, but my dogs are the stars, and I am just the side leash holder.
Yeah.
Stryker alone was in about 27 campaigns, commercials, and ads last year. And you will see segments where it's me walking him, waist down or whatever, or engage pet dog. I just recorded a laundry commercial last week, and I travel everywhere with Stryker. He is with me at all times. He is my registered dog, and he's allowed to do that. But he went and laid directly in front of the washer and dryer for this laundry commercial. And he wasn't necessarily supposed to be there, but he's just so picturesque and cute. And as I'm filming this commercial and I'm in the middle of it and I say, and this is the only laundry brand that I would ever recommend for my children and my pets alike. And Stryker stood up into my hand, sat next to me, and looked at the camera as I went, and my pets alike. And I'm like, did you get that?
And that's the shot
it
they
was
took.
so perfect. Well, we were filming a commercial. We
Yeah.
were just on film. So I'm sure they're going to edit it a bunch
Yeah.
and take out all the best segments. And in that moment, he just really rose to the occasion and was just such a superstar.
Stryker needs an agent.
Stryker needs an agent, but in one of his commercials, his name was intimidating. So he had to get called Charlie because the census came back and said, oh, we need to refilm that commercial because we were calling him Stryker in the commercial, and the syndication said he needs to be Charlie because that's an intimidating name. But let's talk about that name. It is Stryker Beds, Stryker. If you are an oversized human and you go to the hospital and you get put in an average-sized hospital bed like my father was, you don't fit. My father was way too big to fit in the hospital bed. And a nurse came in to my mom and said, hey, you can get him a Stryker bed, right? And my mom said, no, we've never been to the hospital before. This is all new to us. And so every single time that my father goes into the hospital, my mother needs to say, okay, he needs a Stryker bed. So when my father, after my grandmother passed away, the next day, my mom called the garden center and she's like, hey, because she's looking at the name brand of this hospital bed. And she's like, wouldn't Stryker be a great name for a German Shepherd? And I said, I think it really will be a great name for a German Shepherd. And in trying to battle sorrow, we've been fighting with cancer for 3 years, trying to keep Papa alive. And at our house, I always have incubators going, chicken eggs, quail eggs, duck eggs, litters of puppies, litters of kittens. They are raised because they are going to people for emotional support purposes. It is not like we're just arbitrarily doing
Right.
this. It is bred with science, background, genetics. A lot of panels need to be rendered before picking breeding types, especially when you are trying to breed service dogs. So we support a few nonprofits that raise seeing eye dogs and raise animals for the greater goods of humans. And in doing that, you need to make sure that you understand the background in breeding a perfect animal, because they have a very important life to lead and to offer to their humans.
And it sounds like we're going to learn a lot more
You
about
are
Taylor Lee Chambers
in the
and
future.
Foxfield Farm.
Yes.
And we'll do these seasonal things. I would love to keep chatting, but hopefully you're still watching or listening out
I'm
there.
sure they are.
They
we
better
keep
be.
a captivated audience at all times.
We couldn't be more different with the agriculture stuff, but also we couldn't be more alike because of the showbiz stuff.
It is true.
And even though agriculture, farming, it's not really my thing, I found this all very interesting. And yes, we should totally do a seasonal podcast together.
Please. I would really love that. And this is the first time I've actually talked to anyone, because Colin is a
thank you.
safe space.
Oh.
You are safe to me. I have been reached out. Channel 8 has been hunting us down. There's been a lot of other news syndications that are interested in doing whatever it is that they do.
Yeah.
I get a little worried. I don't always
Well-
necessarily trust. And
Sometimes they take like this. So this is an hour and 35 minutes so far.
right.
So sometimes they take that hour and 35 minutes and need to make it into a 90-second bit.
Of course.
And they're not really telling the true story. So I told you that you'd get final editing, but I don't
Yes.
think we have any editing to do. So I'm going to say that this is
this
all
may be live.
Taylor's.
This is live. And this is how it came out.
This is how it is. We don't need to do any
Yeah.
editing. This is all Taylor speaking, and Taylor will be back for more. So
Yes.
stay tuned. And
Thank you, everyone.
and
We are
thank
just
you.
grateful, appreciative, humbled, and we couldn't do it without you. That
and
is-
Branford wouldn't be what Branford is without your family and Shelley's Garden Center and Foxfield Farm. And I'm just so lucky we were both raised in a community that supports each other. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for you and your family.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for coming on Chatting with Colin.
It was a little unnerving. It took, me to be as strong as I could possibly be. And
I've been trying to
thank
get you since January. So
Yes,
thank you for
thank
coming.
you.
And thank you for watching or listening.
Thank you.
I can't wait for you to see the next episode of Chatting with Colin. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.
You know him, you love him, you're gonna want more of him. Here he is now, it's Chatting with Colin.